Welcome to the Warships podcast with your host, Kellorn, Venacera, and Aaron.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of the Warships podcast. I'm back from Chicago today, but today is Black Friday, and as usual, Wargaming has a ton of deals on their website. But before we dig into what you can get, Irian and I have a couple guests this week: ViirtualSenpai and NoZoupForYou. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Thank you. It's an honor.
I don't know about an honor, but we'll go through with that. So any listeners of the podcast probably know ZoupForYou already, as he's been on a number of times. But this is your first time with us, Senpai. So could you give us a little information on what you do, how you got started with Warships, and where people can check you out?
For sure. So right now, I'm currently with the current King of the Seas champions, 07 Devastating Strike. I'm kind of the press guy for 07 and 007 as a CC. I was implemented as a CC in June for the NA community. I've been playing Warships since the alpha, actually, like just the end of alpha and then going right into closed beta. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/VirtualSenpai. That is 2 I's in Virtual Senpai, all one word. So you can find me there. That's where the majority of my content goes up.
Alrighty. I had to get a little dig in there at the ZR folks for not participating in the KOTS, I see.
I mean, you guys dead clam, something like that. But no fault of your own. No fault of your own. Warships burns a lot of people out, so it's not a big deal.
So Zoup, we don't want you to feel left out. So what has been new in your neck of the woods? I know you got down to the Anaheim event, the Anchors Away Anaheim, right?
Yeah, I was down there. Just been pretty busy lately. Work and just everything going on. So, ships, I don't want to say it's taking a back burner, but you know how it is. Family comes first, work comes first. You kind of do what you can when you can. And there's been a lot of stuff coming out down the pipeline from World of Warships. We've had a ton of new ships coming in. We've had the Halloween game modes, and Twilight was still ongoing, which is a preview, I think, of a new game mode that probably will come in the future, which is what I was hoping for, that kind of PUBG-based game mode where you've got a ring that just shrinks in. So Wargaming's been busy too, just like everyone else.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on. So with that in mind, this year's headline for Black Friday is without a doubt the black versions of Tirpitz, Atago, Asashio, Massachusetts. These ships in their black camo are honestly astonishing and gorgeous. A few things to keep in mind: they are separate ships and therefore will have a separate port slot and separate stats from their regular non-black versions. Their default camo is the black for premium, but you can actually equip other camos if you so desire. You can buy them either directly in the shop, or you can try and get them out of the Black Friday crates. The crates themselves are available in the shop for a pretty hefty price, but you can earn 5 free Black Friday containers via the in-game combat mission chain, so good luck with that. Additionally, note that the black ships come with a mission to earn up to 2,500 doubloons in the regular version of that premium. So, in other words, if you have a regular Tirpitz and get a Tirpitz B, you can get a mission to earn doubloons in the non-black Tirpitz. It's kind of a cool bonus if you already have the ship and kind of want that black skin. Mutsu and Perth are also on sale with some of the Shadow Lurker Black Friday camos. And if you ever felt the need to buy every single premium ship in the game, now you can. The Armada bundle includes a staggering 67 premium ships for only $699.99. Only. Note that no carriers are included, which isn't surprising since the rework is on the horizon. And finally, if you do have some of the ships in the Armada bundle, when you do purchase it, you will get their full doubloon value. So the few final in-game bonuses round out Black Friday, including discounts on port slots, consumables, and modernizations, and they will last for the week. You can also convert Elite Commander XP into free XP for 1 doubloon per 35 Commander XP. It's normally 25. And there are also some USN regular and premium discounts in the in-game store. So that's a bit of an info dump on you guys. But what did you guys find any of the offers tempting this time around on Black Friday? I know 2 years ago we had the 360 days of premium for half off, which I purchased then, and they didn't have it last year, and I was really hoping they would have it again this year, but they didn't for some reasons. But I was kind of curious what you guys thought about the Black Friday deals.
So I've already kind of given my thoughts, well, an unboxing on one of my videos earlier. And for me, since we were given the Black Friday ships, the 4 variants to play and kind of take glamour shots of, it kind of took us out of the running to get any of the missions or drops. So we weren't really able to.
Zoup, did you see the guy on the Admiral's Locker that got 5 containers and then got 3 of the premium ships out of it?
I did. So, and
I don't know if that's typical, but that seemed like a lot.
I don't know either. And that's kind of what I said in my video. I was blatantly honest that I could not talk to what the drops were for the ship. So I advise people to just kind of sit around and watch everyone else post what they got, and a day or two later come in and decide whether or not it's worth it. And from what I've been seeing on my post in the forum, I asked everybody to kind of post their stuff, and they've been doing it. And from what I can see, people have been getting a fair amount of these ships within 5 or 6 containers. So I think the crates themselves, if you don't have any of those ships, are yielding good results. I'm not a big fan of the Shadow Lurker camouflage, or at least the amount that you receive. To me, it's kind of like Frosty the Fur Tree. It's a little better, but nicer looking, but same type of thing. I agree with you, though. I was really hoping for that 365 days of premium for $50. I think that is sorely lacking right now, and I kind of wish that was there. The Armada bundle, take it for what it's worth. You're going to have some people out there that are going to bite and purchase it, but I don't think that's really what the community is looking for. The community is looking for these crates, and from what I've seen, people have been getting some good stuff ship-wise out of them. But if you don't get any of the ships, I think some of the people have been kind of let down because, the Shadow Lurker camouflage just isn't that great. And the other stuff like credits and free XP, I don't think are quite dropping at the rate that I would expect. But overall, I'd say most people are very pleased.
So, Zoup, one quick question before we jump over to Senpai's impressions of the Black Friday deals. So I was a little surprised that the price tag on the Armada bundle was $700, and it still didn't include some of the super rare ships that you can't get, like Kutuzov, Belfast, Gromyashki, and some of the ones that they said they're not going to sell again. I mean, yeah, they said they weren't going to sell again, but if they were going to do a big bundle like that, you'd think that maybe that would be a place where they could get away with tossing in some of those a little more controversial ships and to kind of heighten the interest. Were you a little surprised that it didn't include those ships? And I guess considering how many ships are in that bundle, is $700 fair?
I think $700 is probably fair for that amount of ships, but I do agree that if they had thrown in ships like Belfast and Kutuzov, I think they would probably get a little more nibbles on that. You might have a little more takers because I don't know. Those ships are what people want. I mean, you saw how excited people got when they announced that Missouris were going to drop in super containers. I mean, these premium ships are a huge draw, and to not have the ones that, the fish that got away, I don't know that people that might have purchased it aren't going to do it now. I just don't know. I mean, I guess that's someone at Wargaming knows what the stats are. So
I think the risk is that people would go, oh my God, look at how greedy Wargaming is. Look, they know people want the Belfast, so they'll only put it in the $700 package. Come on, Wargaming, stop being so greedy, and then they'll complain incessantly about it.
That is the downside of going that route. But Senpai, what were your impressions about the Black Friday deals?
My personal impressions about the Black Friday deals, personally, as Zoup said earlier, I was pretty disappointed that you didn't have the year of premium for an absolute steal. That was one of my biggest issues with it. Seeing as a couple years ago when it was up, I did double down on it quite literally, and I still have 500 days of it running. But going through the deals just at a glance, I'm thinking as a Canadian with our Canadian peso changes, it's pretty pricey, but at the same time you still get a lot of value out of it. Looking at the as an admin as well on the locker, I noticed that post as well that was mentioned earlier with someone getting 3 ships out of 5 crates, which is ridiculous. and someone must have made a deal with a leprechaun or two. But with all these tier 8 ships, I'm just really kind of worried about matchmaking right now. So with Wargaming releasing all this, I see there being like a mass potential of just kind of an influx of and saturation of the tier 8 matchmaking bracket. So with that being said, it could go one of two ways. Either people get pure good tier 8 matchmaking in their black versions of their ships, which is a positive for tier 8 matchmaking. As we all know, we like to want, like everybody whines about it. It's like, oh, I'm up tiered against tier 10s, I can't do anything. Or it can go the exact opposite way, and these people who are buying these ships get up tiered and absolutely slaughtered. And I've a very, very it's a very, very tight rope to walk with these offers, but at the same time, it could do a lot of good for the community. And looking at this, I actually do think that most of the Black Friday deals are a good thing. But one thing in this on the premium shop screen that really kind of irks me, if you scroll down enough, you see the Rasputin, and when you click on the tooltips for it, it says it's only temporary. Now we all know that the Rasputin is the Nikolai, right? So people are obviously going to be drawn to the allure of this, and they're like, oh, I want it, but it's temporary, which is a big, for lack of better phrasing, feels bad, man. But otherwise, Zoup covered a lot of what I was going to say, but I think it's all right, but as some people would say, could have done better. I'll personally be saving. If I were a consumer, I would personally be saving for the Christmas containers.
So, quick question towards Vanessa here. Vanessa, back when we had the Bismarck mission where you got rewarded for playing the game, you got Bismarck. We talked a lot about people getting tier 8 ships and not having the experience to play them. Do you feel like the way that turned out it will justifies them allowing so many tier 8s for so easy? And honestly, the tier 8 cost, if you do just buy it in the shop, is about 40% off if you go just the buy route. So what are your thoughts on having tier 8s for people that might not be at that point yet, Vanessa? Again, since we talked about it a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone back and forth on the show, and quite often we see this every time that Wargaming goes and releases a premium, in the tier 8 category, or, even as we've touched on, the tier 9s. And I don't know, from personal experience, I don't feel like I've actually seen, that much of a negative impact. I mean, I know we talk about it in a broad sense, but I mean, have any of you folks, as you're playing, actually played a match and went, oh, yeah, that person just, purchased a Tirpitz or, got the Bismarck, and actually know that, oh, yeah, they literally did just get it, and see the results of that?
I actually saw a Tirpitz today in a Tirpitz Black as he sailed straight into the middle of the map and died instantly. So yes, I have seen that.
Yes, me as well. It's kind of a recurring theme with tier 8 ships in the premium shop. It's very reminiscent of World of Tanks. I don't know if you guys know the low from World of Tanks. People would buy that as their first premium.
I have it.
Exactly. You see, you know what I mean. Like, people would buy it and like first tanks and absolutely just they'd just run in, expect to be like a god, and get absolutely smacked around. And it's the same thing we see with the Tirpitz, and it's just, you see it more times than not, unfortunately.
So,
well, maybe it's just a personal experience thing, because I haven't seen it that much. But it's funny you bring up the low, because I do play World of Tanks from time to time, and I have a lot of German tanks, but I do not have the low specifically because, one, I'm not good at tanks at all, and two, I don't want to be that person that like bought the low and then sucks in it, because I know the reputation of that tank.
Precisely. Like, it's all about the reputation, and the low's reputation in tanks is kind of what the Tirpitz now has in ships. It's that one ship that everybody dreads seeing in matchmaking, because more times than not, you're going to see some questionable play in said vehicle.
It's also a great way to farm stats if you are good at playing Tirpitz. But Zoup, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think I'm at the point where I've moved on from complaining just about player-based issues with buying new ships and everything else. I mean, after 3 years, at this point, it's going to happen regardless. I mean, we're going to continue to see it. It's always going to happen. So the way you look at it now is either two things are going to happen. A player is going to buy a ship like the Tirpitz or something else, and they're going to get their teeth kicked in for a while. Then they might realize that, hey, I need to jump down to the lower tiers and work my way up and understand the game. Or they're just going to keep playing the Tirpitz, and they might get a little better, but I don't think they'll get as good as they would have been had they dropped back down to the lower tiers and continue to play. I mean, it was the same last year, and it was the same the year before. I guess the positive way to look at it is if someone purchases a ship, that's money going towards wargaming so that they can continue developing. So, hey, thanks for your money. Have fun, playing, I guess, at a level that you're happy with. I don't know.
Aaron, you weren't actually on the show yet as a full-time host when we talked about people buying tier 8s. So is that something that happens a lot on the European server? Because it's kind of infamous on the NA server.
I think, well, it kind of is. I think when you talk about the Tirpitz, I think I guess it makes you think of the Bismarck instead. You see, during Gamescom of one year, when we didn't have either of the ships, they allowed, random Gamescom players into our games. And I think that one paints the picture to me, because I think they didn't have an entire 20 minutes to play the actual game back then. So you can imagine what random battles look like if you got those players on your team. But I hear you guys complain about the Tirpitz and, new players playing, being really aggressive and dying and doing nothing at all. But how is that any different from, normal players?
Or any other game for that matter. I mean, the issues we have in World of Warships are no different than any other game. I mean, if you even look at matchmaking, I know we like to complain about being tier 8 stuck in tier 10, but I've been playing a lot of Black Ops 4 lately. And if you're a new player jumping into that game, if you're a new player and you didn't buy the game right when it came out, I mean, you're basically tier 1 going up against people that have prestige 4 times, who have every weapon unlocked, who have every single item for every weapon unlocked, and you get the starter weapon with absolutely nothing in it. I mean, it's a hard learning curve, and it takes a while. I mean, honestly, I think World of Warships is a lot more forgiving for being bottom tier than most first-person shooters. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but you can at least survive due to the pace of the game.
Well, I was actually making that as a joke there, but
oh no, I wasn't going against anything you were saying.
Okay.
You just led me onto another tangent completely. No, I agree with what you were saying.
Whoa! Zoup went on a tangent.
Yeah, no kidding.
Shocker.
Surprise. I'm sure everyone listening is shocked.
So I did want to say though that I completely agree with Zoup. I don't think it's something we should be upset about as players, because even if you think about it mathematically, there's a higher chance the new player is going to be on the enemy team than yours. So thank you for the free win.
I guess it also kind of comes down to just human psyche and just thought process, because I learned a while back in university when I was taking a psych course, no less, or / business, people are 3 times more likely to complain about something negative than they are positive. So at this point, I think it's just kind of human nature to complain about new players, matchmaking, etc., especially with how long this game's been out. Agreeing with Zoup's point with it should be commonplace now, and we should be coming to accept it.
Yeah, and if you've noticed that people complaining about matchmaking and new players and everything else are continually, for the most part, the first people sunk, and just the same people. It's like, all right, it sucks.
So something about glass houses.
Yeah, exactly. Game over. You were sunk. Your team's not doing that great. Just go back to port and drive on, or take a break from the game and move on to something else.
That also kind of leads me onto another thing. Speaking about that, it's kind of like the debt process, which is an acronym, die early, blame team. You see a lot of that, but what also kind of really frustrates me on that tangent, I'll try and keep it short, but the lack of reflection post-mortem. in this game, where people they like to blame others, but they don't realize that they themselves made the mistake. But I'll keep that short, just for the sake of topics. But yeah,
we do have a giant amount of topics to talk about today. But I do think you are correct, Senpai. That, well, I mean, and it's even for myself, sometimes it's hard to go back and be like, well, what did I do wrong, and where, and what could I have done better? It's a difficult thing to broach, to self reflect like that. So.
I don't know. I don't ever do anything wrong.
Oh yeah. Then it's easy. Zoup.
He's the perfect player. He's the 100% win rate player.
Oh, that wasn't me that said that. I do.
That was my bad.
I do plenty of things wrong.
All right. Well, this week we got a couple of new cruisers to test in our ports, namely the Pan-Asian Irian, which is a Sverdlov class, similar to Kutuzov in game. But instead of a smoke generator, she gets 13.5 kilometer deepwater torps with a torp reload booster. In a similar vein, Lazo, I believe is correct, is a Chabayev class cruiser, but down tiered to tier 7 and without the radar. Lazo felt a little pedestrian to me, but I honestly had a lot of fun with Irian and her deepwater torps. What did you guys think about these two cruisers, and are they something that fit in the game at tier 7 and tier 8?
All right, so I played both of these extensively on stream yesterday, and I'll start off with the Irian. For tier 8, with its consumables, the torp reload booster, the 13.5 kilometer range on torps, which are essentially Yu Yang torps, it is a very, very powerful ship at tier 8, and it is of an extremely unique play style. But with this, it allows a tier 8 ship to hold an entire flank against tier 10 ships, potentially, if it's a main battleship push. Those deep water torps, they're 13.5 kilometer range, but your detection in a full concealment build is 10.5. So that gives you about a 3 kilometer stealth torp range, which is incredibly deadly, especially with deep water torps. They move at 68 knots. They do about a 17.9k alpha strike. But when I played this ship, I ran a 19 point with IFHE concealment, demo expert, and it was not uncommon to see myself getting up tiered, but still being the top of the team because of this thing's raw damage output, its utility, and just the way it plays in front of an overwhelming force. Now, a couple of the drawbacks thing is it is a Sverdlov class, similar to the Kutuzov. So essentially, you catch that thing and you sneeze on it, it's going to take a hefty amount of damage. So after playing
it's funny you say that, Senpai, but I bounced shells, AP shells off her armor belt like crazy, especially the 203 millimeter off of the Charles Martel and the 381 millimeter out of Warspite. I was bouncing their shells off my angled armor belt, which I was really surprised that I wasn't just getting wrecked by them.
Now, it will bounce cruiser shells like 203s and similar caliber, but I was finding that like near auto bounce angles, I would get maybe it was just weird RNG, but I would get absolutely smacked through the stern when kiting. But if it were up to me, I would maybe give the option of a heal to replace the TRB, just to give it more longevity, as a lot of the tier 8 premium cruisers, such as the Atago and the Prince Eugen, they do have that heal to increase their survivability when up-tiered, but adding that may be a bit problematic due to its deep water torpedo gimmick, and causing, I guess, that 3 kilometer stealth window, again, for the torpedoes. It's a very interesting, but very, very kind of, I don't know, it could work, but it could not.
It is definitely a unique playstyle. Vanessa, did you get a chance to play Irian? And if so, what were your thoughts? I know you do enjoy kind of that cruiser playstyle.
Oh, I totally love that cruiser. This type of cruiser. Regretfully, no, I have not gotten a chance to test it.
You will love it. It plays like a bigger, more IFHE friendly Atago with the stealth window of torps. I would, if it were released in this form, I'd recommend it to my viewers.
Oh yeah, if it was released today, it would be a total, you go buy that ship, particularly because the gun angles are so good. Arun, Zoup, what were you guys' thoughts on Irian?
So I actually have not had a chance to play them either of the new ships. on paper, they look real good. And what Senpai has stated is what I kind of expected the ship would produce with those torpedoes. Kind of hurts hearing Yu Yang torpedoes after the recent nerf to the Yu Yang. I'm still kind of reeling about that and a little sad, but just more ships coming out from Wargaming. Tons and tons of ships. And that's... I've got thoughts on that, but yeah, I look forward to playing them.
Well, let's get Aaron's thoughts on Irian, and then we'll talk a minute about Lazo.
I think she'd be better if you gave her normal torpedoes and switched the torpedo reload booster for a smokescreen.
Well, that we kind of already have that in the game, Aaron. I mean,
it's a joke, okay? It's a joke.
I know. I'm trying to be deadpan in response.
Well, I thought the ship... I didn't have problems with it. I thought she was powerful with guns, especially if you're top tier. You can outfight basically any of the cruisers you run into, and you always have those torpedoes that are incredibly scary for battleships.
I did get a double strike with Irian today on 2 lions that tried to go on either side of me. So I will say that was one of the best moments that I've had in Warships in a long time. But Senpai, we did talk a little bit about Irian here already. I want to get your thoughts on Lazo, because I found Lazo to be really, really pedestrian. Like it's fun. It didn't feel all that different than Shores to me at tier 7. I guess my biggest problem is that it just didn't feel unique.
Well, with my Lazo play, I found it to be an absolute fire god. I stuck my Moskva captain on it, which was basically a full fire starter build, and I got up to about a 15% fire chance. That's including flags, the demo expert skill, and as much fire chance that it can give me. Now, I had a couple moments in stream yesterday where I was kiting battleships, as cruisers tend to do. I was defending a flank. Now, what really struck me as odd is that more than once, there's like 3 to 4 battleships in front of me, and they're all pushing this flank, and I'm the lone cruiser here with maybe a destroyer and another cruiser in the distance supporting me. In 2 salvos on battleships, I set double fire on one, switch targets, set a double fire on another. I don't know if it was RNG, but I noticed it happening more often than not during my gameplay with her. Now, regarding gameplay and her gimmicks, she's your typical spotter plane Chapayev. Except for the one thing, her spotter plane uptime really does increase her longevity in games. The downtime, the cooldown's at like literal 10 second. You can get it to about 9.03 with captain talents as well, which is really, it's an eye-opener, because with tier 7 being that tier that tends to get up-tiered into tier 9 quite a bit, I've found that the Lazo, with that perk, can really tend to keep a lot of tier 9 battleships at arm's length, which is something you don't really see at tier 7. Now, comparing her to the Shores, she does have a bit of a range advantage. It's slight, but it's there. But the thing that really sells her for me is the ability to have a 20-kilometer range at tier 7 and keep battleships and enemies at arm's length, preventing them from flanking the enemy, and basically farming withers and arsonists at will. It will be one of those ships, and it's kind of cool, but at the same time terrifying.
See, I get what you're saying, Senpai. I just did not find her to be, like, for me, all the things that you said, I feel like I do those things in the Shores anyway. Yeah, the Shores is a floating citadel, but I didn't really feel like the Lazo wasn't if I played poorly. It was, you're perfectly capable of getting that thing citadel from a really long way by a good battleship. But, I guess I didn't play around with the spotter plane as much as you did, and realize I had such a short cooldown. But I just didn't find it to be all that different than the normal ship. So I was like, whatever.
I do agree there. It's basically a mirrored like Shores in gameplay wise, but being a Chapayev, it's kind of like, this is why they removed the spotter plane from the Chapayev to, I guess, make room for the Lazo. But the gameplay is pretty close to identical, but you still have that advantage with the spotter plane, which is absolutely massive. I would definitely recommend putting a spotter plane module on it just to have that extra uptime, so you have you can put out more DPM at a longer range and outrange most of your enemies, which is, again, it's huge when you're up tiered. Like kiting Iowas in a tier 7 ship and burning them down for potential arsonists, as we don't get those on test ships, is a pretty eye-opening thing, considering that it only gets a little more range over the shores at tier.
Yeah, we'll see how those ships change, or if they do, in the next couple of weeks as they move toward production. So Wargaming does intend to add a Warships premium account. Currently, when you purchase a premium account, it's good for any of the Wargaming titles and gives the customer a 50% XP bonus to all of the games. The Warships premium account will give an extra 15% XP, bringing you to 65%, but will only be good for World of Warships. They appear to be trying to cater to players who generally stick to just a single game and don't bounce between tanks, ships, and planes, which is fine because for me, like, I really only play ships, other than maybe a few things into tanks once in a while. And I think this is a pretty cool option, but my biggest question is, I wonder how it will affect some of us with kind of the longer term premium accounts. I personally have 193 days of premium time remaining on my account. I know Senpai said something about having 250 days, but I guess, so Vanessa, are you on board with this idea of having a premium account that's geared straight towards Warships without having any bonuses for the other games?
Well, I think anything that gives options is a great thing, because I play planes and I play tanks as well. Not as much as I play World of Warships. I do kind of focus more on World of Warships, but lately I've at least been logging in to do a match or two in tanks, and with the B-17 coming out in World of Planes, I've been playing to try and get that, because it's one of my favorite planes. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's not really good for me, but there's going to be people out there that it's really good for. So I think anytime you give choice to a consumer, I mean, it's not really costing Wargaming to have, these two different options. I mean, if someone's going to play, all three, then, regular premium count is probably going to be the best for them. And, if they're just going to stick to World of Warships, then, why not go with the World of Warships specific one?
Now, just adding on to that, so what Kaloran said about how it will differentiate from different premium accounts, I'm looking at the DevBlog post now, and it says, when the Warships premium account will be added, all players with an active premium account will receive a Warships premium account with the same duration. So, for example, if I have, for example, right now I have like 500 days on my premium account. Apparently I will get, like, if it's implemented in current form, I will get 500 days of Warship specific premium, which, to be honest, like,
I don't know that that's the way it's going to work though, Senpai. Like, I got the impression that was going to be like a temporary thing for like the first time you purchased it, but I didn't read that personally as it would apply retroactively to the premium that I already have.
Oh yes, the rest of the post says, and I quote, thus they will be able to test the service and evaluate its benefits for themselves without incurring any additional costs. So I do think you're correct there, where it will be kind of like a test bed sort of thing. But if they do that, it would be great for the already purchased people that have bought premium time for this. But at the same time, as a business, Wargaming would lose a lot of money on that.
Aaron, what are your thoughts about kind of the specialization into ships for premium?
I think it has to do with the fact that so all the games are managed by different teams for Wargaming, which means that there are obviously some communication issues here and there. And the issues this causes, the fact that we have the shared premium time, is that, let's say World of Warships has an event that gives out the reward that's like, just play one battle and you get 1 day of premium or something like that. If they have events like that, what usually happens is that suddenly there's a massive influx of players from World of Tanks that for that 1 day play World of Warships a little bit. They don't play tanks at the same time, and then they go back to tanks. And the opposite happens as well. If tanks has some event like that, the same thing happens. Now, if we have game-specific premium accounts, then this is avoidable, because Wargaming can simply give out, World of Warships premium rather than one that applies to tanks. And I think, the whole gold unification thing that has been going, talked about for a long time, I think this kind of signifies that they're probably not going to go for it, because it simply causes more problems, because of what I mentioned above. It basically ties their hands, because what happens is that if all the teams have to deal with these problems that appear because of different, another game doing something, it will tie the hands of all the games, and what kinds of rewards they can do, what they can give out in events, etc. Because otherwise, you can ruin another game with what you're doing in yours.
Zoup, do you think everyone's on track with that one?
Yeah, I think I think he's right about the possible financial impacts and everything. Personally, my thoughts, I don't know. This whole thing, it seems like the in-game out of game economy with wargaming and World of Warships has just kind of gotten very out of whack lately. It's almost like inflation. Things have become overinflated, and it just seems like right now it's all of a sudden caught up, and wargaming is really making some drastic changes right now to try and just stop it from continuing. So I don't know. I just find it more interesting than anything else, really.
It's not really just like inflation. It is literal inflation.
Yeah.
Because we have.
Yep. Yeah.
We have flags, we have camouflages, we have all kinds of things we didn't have in the past, back when the numbers were designed.
Yes. So yeah, it is inflation. Granted, it's not a, there's no way around it. It's straight up economical inflation.
But do you really think that a 24-hour grant on, say, World of Tanks or World of Warships is going to affect the economy that much?
No, I don't. And I really think that I don't know if it's going to work out to Warship's benefit, because it is nice jumping from game to game. I mean, if I have the ability with what I have now to dabble in another game, I would say that's a better thing than forcing someone to buy premium time for a different game. So,
well, I mean, they aren't going to go away from the wargaming premium account. This is an alternative option that's not going to be required.
Yeah, I know. Why? I mean, and I know Arun spoke to some extent of it, but I don't know.
I just don't feel that. I mean, it's one thing if you have gold being unified, and I get the arguments for and against that, and that definitely affects the economies of other games if you did have a full unification, because I've definitely used my World of Tanks gold in World of Warplanes to get stuff gets going. When I started to really get into planes, I had I have all this stuff and I can bring this over and really get going into that game. But my argument would be with the premium time is, hey, when I started playing tanks more, it actually, hey, I had premium time. I actually had the wherewithal. Oh, I've got a little extra money. Why don't I buy this premium tank? Why don't I buy that premium tank? And I don't know, maybe it caused me to spend more money in a game that maybe I would not have had I not had the shared premium time.
Well, I wasn't really talking about that kind of economy. I mean, I have to agree. I felt the same way when I played tanks a little bit. But on the other hand, what I mentioned earlier is that Wargaming has said this themselves, as far as I know, in the past, where they have mentioned that when there are events where they give out things like premium time, it affects the other games, and because of that, there's an influx of players. Now, the problem with an influx of players is that it affects servers, and it also makes the player graphs really weird. So the analysts have to filter through all of that, and it causes headaches, which ends up tying the hands of what the community managers can design in terms of events, what they can and cannot give out. At least that's what I think.
Well, we'll see how receptive the community is to the idea of a Warships premium account as a whole. But we are about to get a significant balance pass for the USN battleships. Specifically, the USN Tier 3 to Tier 9 non-premium battleships are due to receive a 12% rudder shift bonus on their A-hulls, an increase to their repair party HP heal from 0.5% to 0.66% HP per second, and the New York will receive a slight reload boost. I personally find that this is the correct move, as some of the newer ship releases have been slowly power creeping out some of the legacy ships. But do you guys think that this is too big of a buff for the USN battleships? And are you okay with the fact that they are doing this to only the line ships and specifically leaving out all of the premium US battleships? So Zoup, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good thing that they're not doing it to the premium ships, because I think the premium US battleships are good enough as they are. I really don't think that the Alabama or the Massachusetts really needs a rudder shift buff. I think they turn fairly decent as it is. Missouri doesn't need a buff. It's got that reinforced frontal citadel armor, which already makes it better than Iowa. I mean, personally, I enjoy the USN battleship line. I think it's one of the most balanced lines from beginning to end. I enjoyed, obviously not the lower tier ships as much as the higher tier ships, but I was able to make all of them work. We know the issues with the lower tier ships. They're slow. Is rudder shift going to help them significantly? It'll help them a little bit. Do I think they need this buff? Maybe a little bit. Like you said, they haven't aged quite as well as some of the other ships and the other lines. So this is more of kind of a creature comfort thing, I think. I think it's just going to make the line a little more comfortable when dealing with ships like the French line, which are somewhat speed demons and everything else. So I welcome this buff. Anything that brings relevance back to lines that have been around since open beta, I think that's a good thing. So I've got no issue with it overall, because the buff, I won't say it's minor. It does help indeed, but it's not a huge buff that's going to significantly alter the line. Again, this is just making the ships a little more comfortable to maneuver around in. So I applaud this. I think it's right to do it to the line. I don't think the premium ships need it. And I hope they look at a bunch of other old lines that have been around for a long time and evaluate whether they need slight buffs, which I know they're doing, because we know about the changes coming to Azuma and other ships in the IJN line,
which we're going to talk about in a minute. But Senpai, what about your thoughts on the USN battleship balance pass?
Now, looking at it where it's just buffs towards the line ships, I am in full agreement that these buffs were definitely needed for the quality of life of the line, as there's been so much going on in the game, so many new lines released, so much options battleship wise and line wise for a player to choose. So this definitely does make the US and battleship line much more attractive to the new player, as well as the experienced player who may not have gone up those lines, because I've found that I face more Bismarcks than not because of the historical prestige and not as many Iowas. That just may be a personal thing, but definitely with the especially the buff to the New York, which is a god awful reload, even if it is just a couple seconds, it's really going to help the quality of life of that ship. The Colorado buff as well really looks quite attractive, and the overall buffs to the repair parties going up to that 0.66 of HP per second is excellent. And I do agree with Zoup that the premiums, they're in a good place right now. The Alabama and Mass being Sodak classes are in a great place. Their torpedo protection, their turn radius, just overall, they're great ships. The Missouri as well, with its radar, as mentioned on the DevBlog, is very strong still and does not exactly need a buff in itself. The Arizona, being one of the more accurate ships at tier 6, again, doesn't really need a buff. If anything, maybe a slight rudder shift, but that's just me. But otherwise, these buffs do make the line more attractive to the new or experienced player who may not have gone up the line. And I have a feeling once these go, when these go through, we may see more newer players trying out this line and kind of straying away from, I guess, the British and German meta that I personally have seen. So this is a great thing.
Now, real quick, the Colorado did not get a buff with these other ones because it got a buff previously. That's correct, right?
Hang on, let me read that because I've got the post up in front of me right now.
So from what I understand, Colorado is getting the HP buff. The HP repair buff.
Right,
so,
but not the other buffs.
So keep in mind that the rudder shift buff is only for the A hulls, which are often pretty bad in the US ships. So the B hulls, the final hulls, aren't getting changed.
The A hulls are what need them, because you jump into New York and you're basically molasses.
I don't think the Colorado's getting the heal buff because she already had it.
Oh yes, that's correct. I'm reading it, and I quote the DevBlog. The change of repair party has been made for American ships of Tier 3 to Tier 9 level, except Colorado, because the ship already has such repair party. So yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right.
Yep. So what I thought is that I think they should give the heal buff to the Montana as well, and but to counteract that, they should either raise her citadel a tiny bit or make the ship sit slightly higher in the water, because what I hate the most about fighting the Montana is that her citadel sits on the waterline. It's not protected by armor. It's protected by the fact that my shells simply don't hit the citadel area. They'll hit somewhere else.
I personally think Montana is in a great place. I think out of all the Tier 10 battleships, it is probably the most well-rounded battleship. So I would shudder to think of any changes. I don't think it outshines any other one. I just think it's very, very comfortable. Of course, that's my preference, though I do know there's a lot of players that feel the same.
I personally think that Montana is a piece of garbage and needs significant changes to bring it in line with the other ships. Personally, I do not find Montana fun to play. I do not find her to be particularly survivable. I do not like the angles of her guns. I don't like her armor scheme. I don't feel like when I play Montana, I still to this day think that she is a tier 9.5 ship.
Tell us how you really feel about it.
Is that because you're Mr. Yamato?
I mean, it may be because I'm totally spoiled by Yamato, but I straight just disagree with you on that one, Zoup. Montana is probably my least favorite tier 10.
That's fine. I like Yamato also. I like, honestly, I think all the tier 10 battleships are a lot of fun. I just think Montana is well-rounded. That's all.
Now, I can see where both of you are coming from, but in my opinion, the U.S. battleship line is kind of supposed to be a jack of all trades but master of none kind of line. So it can do things adequately, but there are points where other lines can and will outshine it. But the one thing that kind of shines with the Montana with me, if you spec it for full AA, it will eat a tier 10 carrier's planes for lunch. And that's kind of what it's kind of good for, I guess.
Whoa! There's carriers in this game?
Say what? Sorry? Maybe some.
I haven't seen a tier 10 carrier in a while.
I mean,
in the future.
Yes.
Insert Kami Samurai CV Dead class quote.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, like I was gonna say, I've got to keep Kami in faith. I actually saw him last weekend. He was at a party at my house, so Kami says hi to everybody. So we have some last thoughts on the USN buff here before we have another buff that we have to talk about.
I'd like to mention about the Montana. So my complaint wasn't the fact that Montana is too strong or too weak. The complaint is about the fact that she's annoying to play against because her armor relies on RNG and nothing else. Basically, a Montana can sit full broadside onto you with doing nothing at all, and if you're unlucky and your shells simply don't go low enough to hit the citadel, you're not going to be able to punish her. And I hate this kind of a gameplay mechanic.
Fair enough. I can see that, and I guess each ship has their little ticks that people don't like. I mean, Conqueror with its everything, and but
little tick.
Exactly, little. But I mean, I can see that, but I personally would not want to see it changed. But I understand where you're coming from.
This is the wonderful thing about talking with peers. We all have differently based experiences. Like I've found that I'm actually able to readily Citadel Montanas in my Stalingrad, but that's another story. Let's move on to more things.
Yeah, we have some IJN and German ships to talk about. So in a similar vein to the USN battleships, Frederick de Grosso will receive a reload boost to both of her main sets of guns and a penetration buff to her 105mm secondaries. The IJN Myogi B hull and Congo A hull will receive a penetration buff to their shells. And in addition, Myogi will receive a slight reload buff as she's kind of the real pain in the butt to play at tier 4. Finally, Izumo will have the penetration of her 410mm guns increased, especially at longer ranges. And these buffs seem to be aimed at kind of smoothing over a few of the problem ships in their respective lines, as they can be difficult and frustrating for players to play, and especially because they don't play like their predecessors. And I'm kind of thinking of Miyogi and Izumo in that particular one. But I guess which of these buffs is most interesting to you guys? And let's start with Irian.
I really dislike the Miyogi change because now there will be other people who will go through the Japanese battleship line that might have not otherwise, because the Miyogi was so utterly insanely bad. And that makes me sad because it means it'll be more difficult to play the game. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic right now. I like it. It's a good change. And I think Izumo getting buffed is also good, despite the fact that she already got significantly buffed. I think she needs even more because she still performed on the same level as the Friedrich der Grosse, which obviously is getting a buff as well. So, and Iowa is getting buffed too, so all the bad tier 9 battleships are getting buffed, which is great.
Senpai, what about you? And I guess Irian did bring up the tier 9 buffs. Tier 9 has often been a problem for wargaming, to the point where they've stated that they don't want to do a ranked season at tier 9 because people, quote, don't keep tier 9 ships, unquote. Is this a step in the direction of trying to get people to keep near tier 9s? Or is that just a side benefit of the fact that they're trying to smooth over the lines in general?
I think it's a bit of both, personally. The buffs to the FDG are more than welcome because everybody knows what, for lack of better phrasing, dumpster fire that ship is in comparison to its predecessor, the Bismarck.
See, I personally find FDG to be an amazing ship. I love FDG. I actually like my FDG more than I like the Grosse Kurfürst. So
I can see that. I can definitely see like that. That's what another thing that I kind of want to bring up. I'm about tier 9 play and keeping or selling the ships in general. Now, a lot of the times, players, they will rush through. I've found players will rush through the tier 9s just to get to that end of the line because you're right there. Why wouldn't you rush through this ship? Even if it's a great ship, you're right there at the tier. Like the tier 10 is literally quite just out of reach of your fingertips. So a lot of players I've found will rush through the tier 9 ship using a lot of free XP just to get to that tier 10 end of the line to enjoy that, missing out on great ships such as, for in your case, the Friedrich der Grosse, which is getting an amazing buff, which is very welcome.
The thing about the Friedrich der Grosse, and which is crazy to me because they're buffing her 105mm secondaries, is I find that the secondary spec on Friedrich der Grosse is more effective than the secondary spec on Bismarck Interprets or the Grosse Kurfürst, just because of the way her secondaries are set up. And now they're going to give her even better penetration on her 105mm secondaries. This is crazy talk.
I mean, maybe it's because they're seeing that there have been a lot of complaints from people because a lot of people tend to focus on main armament in this game, and they focus on that because it's like, oh, I want to see those big 40,000 damage hits. I want to see those devastating strikes, things like that. People don't tend to focus on the secondaries, I've found, because they want to see that big hit. They want to have that satisfaction of that 100% to 0% hit, instead of the systematic 1,000 cut death that secondaries give. That's what I've found, at least.
So did you just make an argument why we have detonations in the game?
I don't know if I did intentionally or not, but unintentionally or not, but it's kind of just what I've noticed.
But what about you, Zoup? I guess where are you at with these changes? Is this a systematic change to smooth over the lines, or are they actively promoting tier 9?
So I'm probably the odd one that actually did not mind grinding the Azuma. And I grinded the Azuma a long time ago, back before it received any of the buffs. I didn't love the ship, but I didn't hate the ship. FDG, same thing. I didn't think it was a great ship, but I tolerated it. I played it. I think these buffs are going to make him a lot more comfortable for players grinding up the line. And my advice to everyone has always been, don't free XP the tier 9 ships. But, you know, we're talking about tier 9 in general, and maybe the battleships are just kind of polluting our mind on this tier, but honestly, well, and not even all the battleships, because Alsace is still a great battleship. I still have some of the most fun in the Alsace. But if you look at the other ships in Tier 9, some of the other Tier 9 ships,
like Ibuki.
yeah.
Like
No,
the
I was going to
Fletcher.
say, like Ibuki, which is obviously the worst ship.
Let's not even
nine.
talk about that ship. But Fletcher, Tashkent, you've got Chungmu now. Chungmu is going to be a default option now for most players, jaded with what's happening to the Yu Yang. So Chungmu, great ship. Kitakaze, another great newcomer. Even the premiums, you got some great.
I still love Rune.
Oh, yes. Another Rune.
Rune is a great cruiser. You know, I looked at I looked at some of my stats, and some of the best ships I played in the game. I played Edinburgh far better than I imagined I would. Same for the Baltimore.
Edinburgh's tier.
Excuse me, sorry. What's the tier 9 again? Not Edinburgh. Neptune. And then.
Personally, I find the gun layout on Neptune to be superior to the gun layout on Minotaur, and I think that if in some ways Neptune is a better
exactly.
ship.
I mean, it takes some of the best parts of the Edinburgh and some of the best parts of the Minotaur. So, I mean, this myth that tier 9 is just a horrible tier is, you know, I don't think it's necessarily true. But I think part of the problem too, though, and I know this has been tossed around lately regarding matchmaking, is I guess piloting a program or trying to have tier 10 as tier 10 only, and then put 8 and 9 down together. Whether I know that's been in the rumor mill. I know people have brought it up, and there's been some debate about that. Personally, I don't think it would happen, but it would be intriguing and make tier 9 one of those tiers where people don't just free XP through, and even a tier where they might keep their ships.
Okay, Zoup, I want to ask you. I want to ask everybody on the show today a question. I'm throw out the premium ships for just a second. What's the best ship at tier 9 for you, Zoup?
Are we going by statistically or just
no? Don't think about this. Not the non-premium best ship at tier 9.
I would have to say overall, I think a lot of people would argue that Fletcher is.
Okay, so but I'm talking about you. So you would say Fletcher.
Well, if we're going off of what I played the best, it would have either been the Neptune or the Baltimore, surprisingly enough.
Okay, Senpai, best ship at tier 9.
Toss up between the Rune and the Kitakaze, easy. The Rune has a very similar play style to the Hindenburg and is more oriented to a kiting because of its turret placements. And the Kitakaze, being an Akazuki main before the line was actually released, I feel right at home in the Kitakaze, especially with the range buffs, being able to mount that range module and forego advanced firing training for another skill. I do think Kitakaze is very strong, and with the numbers that she's been putting up since released, it shows.
I agree on that. Yeah.
Okay. Arun, best ship at tier 9.
By best, do you mean strongest?
Whatever you're considered of best, just what do you think is the best ship at tier 9 non-premium?
Well, Taiho.
Oh, okay. Vanessa, best ship at tier 9. You can't say Fletcher. You can't say Fletcher. It was already said.
Fletcher.
You can say Fletcher.
I don't care. Fletcher.
Vanessa, she loves Fletcher. I know she loves Fletcher. Fletcher is one of the best.
Okay.
Everybody loves Fletcher. It's Sea-Raptor's favorite destroyer.
All right.
Fletcher destroyer, best destroyer. That's all you need to know.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there, but non-premium, if this change to Izumo goes through, I bet Izumo is the best tier 9 in the game.
That's a bold statement.
Better than Taiho?
Yeah.
Well, she won't live against the Taiho Arun, but like as far as like, but the thing you have to understand is that the problem with Izumo has always been her penetration, because she's literally got the same guns otherwise as Amagi and Nagato. And if she gets a penetration buff and they're anything close to what they really should be at tier 9, she's going to be the touch of death at 15 plus kilometers to basically any cruiser in the game at that tier.
I can agree with that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I remember when the British battleships were coming out, we were testing the armor on these British battleships, and the only battleship that was able to consistently citadel, if citadel at all, or do any damage, was Izumo.
So, I mean, Izumo has long been derided as a poor ship, and there are aspects of it that are absolutely awful. She's much different than she was back in beta when I was the last time that I played her. excuse me, but in terms of a battleship at tier 9, if we're throwing out Missouri, which is obviously the first, and Musashi, which are kind of the default picks, but otherwise, Izmo is crazy at tier 9.
And you didn't even touch on the secondaries.
The secondaries for me are a little meh on Izmo, just unless you pick one of the ones with all the 155s, but that's kind of a whole nother gamut itself.
I think she's talking about the HE change.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that.
Also for Yamato.
That's true. All right. Well, we've got 5 new upcoming premium ships that have been announced on the DevBlog. Azuma, a tier 9 IJN 310mm gun cruiser similar to Alaska, Kronstadt, and Stalingrad. Neustrashimy, if I say that wrong, I apologize. A tier 9 torpedo-based Russian destroyer. The Austro-Hungarian tier 4 battleship Viribus Unitis, she'll be flagged as a German vessel just for convenience in the game, and presumably for commander reasons. The Italian tier 6 destroyer Leone, and the IJN light cruiser Yahagi at tier 5, which is essentially a 152mm gun version of Aoba. There are some intriguing ships in these upcoming releases, but what from this list stands out to you guys? And let's start with Vanessa.
Oh, you already know the answer to this. It's the Italian destroyers. I've been looking forward to Italian destroyers for a while, so I really want to get to testing this one and seeing how it plays and just kind of gleaning of what the Italian destroyer gameplay style might be.
Senpai, I think that you had your hand up next, so let's go with you.
Now, I'm kind of torn between 3 ships, the Yahagi, the Leone, but also the Azuma. But if I had to choose one, I'd definitely say I'm more excited for the Yahagi because of historical reasons. She fought with the Yamato in her last-ditch effort with Tengo, and the slight weeaboo in me is like, This is going to be a good boat because the 152s are going to, I have a feeling, have a very fast fire rate. We have potential to see a very, very strong cruiser in her, as well as with her torpedoes. Those are nothing to laugh at either.
Yeah, she keeps the 10 kilometer torps from Aoba, right?
Correct. And it's very interesting to see because with a lot of these releases like the Leone and the Yahagi, we have potential to see a Japanese light cruiser line as well as an Italian destroyer line, which I'm personally very excited to see the Maestral class.
Irian, what about you? Do you have any interest at all in the idea of an Austro-Hungarian ship? I know that there's some controversy in the EU region that she's going to have a German flag instead of an Austro-Hungarian flag, but she is only tier 4.
Personally, I don't care, but I mean, let's put it this way. Imagine if Battleship Texas came with the Mexican flag into the game. How would the Americans feel about that? Probably not very happy, right?
No, not happy at all.
Yeah, I mean, the controversy is completely understandable, and I think they really should fix it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they should probably put the ship together with the Polish ship, the Błyskawica. They said they were planning on making some kind of a pan-European type nation, so that would be a great idea, I think.
Right, but I guess, Zoup, do you feel like if they put it under a German flag now and then they create a pan-European group later, do you feel like that would preclude them from putting this ship in that pan-European group?
Probably not. I mean, you look at how they dealt with the Boise issue. I mean, they just offered another ship with the exact same stats. I mean, a literal clone. So,
fair enough. Zoup, we didn't hear from you about. Is there one of these ships that is more interesting to you than the others?
So
I'm curious that nobody's talked about Azuma yet, because are we just fatigued of the idea of these big gun cruisers?
I think so, because I'm getting ready to say Neustrashimy, if I can even pronounce that correctly. I'm just happy to see some premium 9 and 10 destroyers at this point. It's nice to finally get one in the game. I don't know how it's going to play, but I really, while it's nice seeing this amount of ships coming into the game, premium ships, I also worry though because we have this influx of tier 9s and tier 10s, and we don't know what the effects of the current tier 9s and tier 10s coming in are going to be. And granted, we don't know when these ships are going to make it into the game, but at this point, I just really wish that Wargaming would kind of hold off the cavalry on all these 9 and 10 premiums and maybe focus on other game-related items, other bigger issues. And, I'm sure they have separate teams working on separate things, They probably have ship people working on ships and map developers working on maps, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting fatigued from the influx of ships right now and just what they're doing to tier 9 and 10, all these coal ships and these steel ships and these free XP ships. And we can't even keep track of which is which anymore, or what's going to be what. People can't even budget anymore. So while, yeah, it's great getting new ships, I think it's having a profound effect on the game and the high tiers and the economy and everything else. And I wish Wargaming would just step back at one point, hold a moratorium on it and say, hey, let's see what happens first, and then we'll kind of go forward with this. And I don't know. Those are just my thoughts.
I would be interested in Azuma, but she's tier 10, so I'm kind of apprehensive because she might end up being another steel ship, which means that being excited about the ship at all would be wasted for me, kind of. And that's why I'm not really that interested in her. I'm kind of surprised, though, that the Neustrashimy comes with 4 guns at tier 9, which is fairly surprising for a DD, I think.
Well, from what I understand, though, a lot of people are excited about the idea of having a torpedo-based kind of destroyer, torpedo gameplay for a Russian destroyer at the high tiers, because the closest thing they have to it right now is Tashkent, and she's got, 8-kilometer torps?
Oh, yeah, and she's going to be really stealthy, too, like 5.6-ish, I think?
Correct, but with Neustrashimy, again, going back to that kind of torpedo kind of oriented gameplay, I was told that the Neustrashimy is the love child between the Grozovoy and the Ognavoy, which is seen in its kind of armament layout. But what I'm kind of concerned about, just looking at the statistics on the DevBlog, Neustrashimy's alpha for torpedoes is just shy of 15,000 damage, which means the Russian torpedoes, and I don't know how to feel about this. One less turret in exchange for being lower tiered, a bit questionable in my opinion. And I'm not sure exactly how to feel about it.
Vanessa, how about you? You are kind of our resident Fletcher player. What do you think about a destroyer like Neustrashimy coming into the game and kind of changing the balance there with Fletcher already in that slot? And Shimikaze, or it's not Shimikaze, but I guess it's what is the tier? It used to be Kagera. Whatever the tier 9 is now? Yugumo, there we go. Are kind of already in that torpedo destroyer slot.
Well, I can understand because, I don't play a lot of the Russian destroyers just because I don't like their gameplay style. And this one might entice me to actually play them a little more, just because it's more balanced with, the torpedo ranges and usability of it. So, because for all intents and purposes, a lot of the Russian destroyers are just, light cruisers without citadels and, guns, and they just set off in the distance and annoy people. And, that's just, they don't really cap. They don't really, they're not like the typical, a lot of the other destroyers that I play that get up there and aggressively, fight over control points and objectives. And so, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this destroyer. And changing up the gameplay style on the Russian line, at least for that particular ship.
All right, guys, so we've got one more somewhat controversial topic to talk about today. The upcoming holiday New Year's event will feature the opportunity to earn the new Tier 6 German battleship Prinz Eitel Friedrich. That's not the controversial part. The controversial part is that they are also going to give the opportunity to earn steel, the currency of ranked and clan battles, in the New Year's event. It's not clear yet just how much steel you'll be able to earn, but one method of earning will include blowing off snowflakes by winning in any mode except for training battles. So you'll be able to go into, say, a co-op battle and just get a quick win. How do you guys feel about steel being earnable outside ranked in clan battles. And I'm going to go with Senpai first because he and I are in one of the kind of the clan battles clans that plays a lot just to earn steel.
So with this in mind, I can see both sides of the argument, because with one thing, with arsenals being introduced earlier this year and such, and having ships such as the Stalingrad available for steel, it has the potential to draw other players who may not actually have the opportunity to play Clan Wars at such a level as we do, or just don't have the time. And that'll give them the opportunity to maybe snag the Stalingrad or something more steel in that regard, and maybe kind of open up more ships to other players. But at the same time, I can see from the top percentile of players, with us being ZR and 07/007 combined, it's almost like a slap to the face where we bust our sterns for the amount of steel that we earn, and then all of a sudden we're having casuals being handed the resources that we sweat and bleed over on the high seas for. But at the it's a good thing for the casual player base, but it's kind of a mild slap to the face to the competitive community, in my opinion.
So before I talk to Zoup and Vanessa about this one, what do you think would be an acceptable amount of steel to earn for players in this event that wouldn't be too bad or too much for, in your opinion, when it would considered by the clan players?
I think it should be maybe it should be given off of performance, but if I had to choose maybe a ballpark, I don't know how much is being given combined. That's not something I was aware of. Are you aware of that number, or?
That's what I'm saying. That number has not been announced, but I kind of have a number in my head of what I think would be an acceptable amount. But I kind of want to see what your acceptable amount of earnable.
Considering that, I think we earn like 6,000 to 8,000 per Clan Wars season. 10. Yes, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Aaron. Oh, jeez. But anyways, we earn around 10,000 per Clan Wars season. Maybe around a ballpark 2 to 3, maybe 3.5 would be acceptable, because we do have the chance to get steel out of super containers. I actually got one yesterday. Thank you, RNGesus. But I think that would be around the right ballpark, because it'll allow people to kind of make their way to that. But at the same time, it won't be a big insult to the competitive communities. People will still complain about it because it's the natural human way to complain about something, but some steel is better than no steel.
See, I was thinking around the 3,000.
Yeah, so we're on the same page there. Cool.
Yeah. Vanessa, Zoup, I know you guys, Zoup, I know you played some clan battles. I don't know how much steel you got out of it. And Vanessa, I know that you have not been able to play clan battles at all because of the time zone issue. What are you guys' thoughts on the idea of earning steel outside?
Yeah, so go ahead.
It's interesting that you said around 3,000. I was kind of thinking, closer to like maybe 1,000 or 1,500. And, I could totally see both sides of the argument here. But I think it was kind of clear when Wargaming changed over to the Arsenal system, we had, prior to that, you had specific ships that you got at specific points, and those were meant to be the prestige of it. Now, Wargaming has moved to, okay, well, we're rolling out a number of reward ships, and all those reward ships, you're just going to be able to turn in for currency. And in a way, we kind of had that, but I mean, it was like, okay, well, you know what you were going to get. You're going to get the flint, and then you were going to get the black. It just kind of went, through that process there. But now we have multiple ships coming out, and it's just kind of an evolution of, well, there's just going to be a ton of different reward ships for you to choose. And I guess, for clan battle's sake, it's going to be the fact that, okay, well, how many of these reward ships do you have in port? And that's going to be your prestige, because you're clearly going to get to that much quicker than someone who could not do clan battles or ranked over and over again. And I mean, the prices at which some of these reward ships are, it's going to take you a lot of time not doing any ranked or clan battles, or maybe you could do some ranked and maybe get lucky with a super container maybe once a year or so and get that lucky steal. And maybe, over the course of a year and a half or two, you might be able to get one reward ship. But I don't see it so much as a slap in the face to clan battle players, because let's face it, you're going to get a ton of steel much, much quicker, and you're going to get, a vast majority of the reward ships. And you're going to get them so much sooner than other players. If this game goes on another 5 years or so, you're going to see people who may have never done clan battles have a couple of these reward ships. So, I mean, it just,
I agree that I was thinking more in line with about 1,000 steel. So I think not really 3,000. I'm kind of on the fence too. I see it both ways. I think it's nice to give people an option to supplement their steel with something other than just relying on a super container, which I think I've received one in its luck, but that's not going to get me anything.
And it was Ocean Souls, right?
No, it was steel out of the crates. That one, but I don't know. Really, sometimes it seems like Wargaming's making stuff up as they go along. I mean, do you want these ships to be a reward solely for clans and to reward the clan people? Or do you want everyone to have them? Do you want a reward solely for ranked gameplay? Or do you want everyone to have them? If so, why even introduce steel? Why not just, with the current economy, set the price even higher or whatever else? Which I don't know that Wargaming knows what they want to do. Personally, I have no problem having a ship solely for people that have, excelled in clan, made it to the top, and earned that steel. I've got no problem with the ship solely for them. But with that, I think Wargaming has to do it this way, because we saw what happened with the Alabama and the Alabama. Remember the whole controversy when Alabama was only going to be a super tester reward? Do you remember how inflamed the community got? I think Wargaming realizes that you cannot have rewards only for one segment of the community. You just can't. So,
well, the Alabama was a different case a little bit, Zoup. I mean, I see what you're going with, but I mean, in Alabama's case, if you weren't a super tester, you could not earn that ship in the original iteration. Whereas, Stalingrad or some of the steel ships, anybody has the potential of earning that. They either might not be good enough, or they might not have a clan that can do it. But they're not like hard. It's not a hard bar.
Prevent people from getting. But in many ways, it is the same, though. If you don't have the time, you don't have the time. I mean, the limiting factor in this game will always be time. Do you have enough time to get to rank 1? Do you have enough time to put in clan battles? It's time. Time is the most precious commodity in this game. And a lot of things that this game rewards you for are all time related, which, only certain parts of the population have. I mean, look at Jean Bart. People were kind of scratching their heads. Well, why are you going to offer it for sale? If both for sale and the other way. And, there's a large segment of the gamer population that's just like, hey, I'm happy you put it in the shop. I have a chance to buy it now because I don't have a chance to earn it the other way. So here's my $60. Thank you. I'm moving on. So, I see what you're...
I guess one thing, Zoup, maybe you can enlighten me on this one, but why is Jean Bart so popular? Like, I've seen so many people playing Jean Bart's in the last week, and I don't get it. I didn't like that ship.
I really don't get it either. I mean, it's a good ship. I enjoy playing it. I can do good things in it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play it all the time. There's other ships I much rather play. So I really don't. Maybe it's just the name Jean Bart. It's kind of a fun name to say, but outside of that, I don't understand the appeal, because she really didn't do much other than get sank when she wasn't complete in World War II. So maybe it's just, actually, I don't know. I've got no clue. I really don't. If you're listening to this and you love the Jean Bart, please let us know. What is it about the Jean Bart you absolutely love?
I may have an answer for that. since we're seeing so many of them, it may not be a historical thing, but the fact that a tier 9 premium battleship is available in the store, which is causing that allure, therefore more people are picking her up because they don't actually have to grind for it like they did the Musashi or Missouri, which then again are available for free XP, and you can buy free XP, but this kind of eliminates the middleman for the conversion.
Nailed it. I think you're absolutely right.
So I'd like to talk about the steel thing, though, because I disagree with all of you guys. I don't understand how you can go, oh, I can see both sides, because frankly, think about it. Most of the players, the vast majority of the players, in fact, will never play clan battles. And it's not necessarily because they're not good enough or because they're not putting in the time. They simply don't have the option to them, because even though Wargaming dealt with the time zone issues slightly, it's the time zone issues come from the fact that you live somewhere. So if you live in North America, most of the other players that you're going to play with are going to play in that time zone. So if you want to find a clan with them, you'll have to, find some other rare people like you that want to play at 3 a.m. or, for example, right, if you want to play in a different time zone. So that's not really a very likely scenario. And you would have to find enough of those players that are willing to play at the specific dates that clan battles are available. And then they also need to be good enough to be able to do that, which, in my opinion, at least limits clan battles quite significantly. At least that's the case for me. I find it rather difficult to do clan battles. I imagine I would have an easier time becoming a super tester and then learning a super test Alabama, if that were available, than doing the actual clan battle thing. And I don't really understand why clan battles need these insanely high rewards, because I can understand back in the day when we had team battles and why they failed, because the rewards were too weak. But that's because back then we had a really difficult time to get the resources to actually play, because you needed flags and all those things, and that cost, a lot of time and effort. And so you would have to grind to get them back. But nowadays we don't really have that problem anymore. So we don't need these massive rewards, particularly because if you play a clan battle match, you get your flags back. You also have rental ships for it. You also gain a very large amount of XP for it. So it seems really weird to me that even on top of all of that, you can earn 10,000 steel for getting to Typhoon and playing the matches, enough of that. Whereas in a ranked season, you can get 5,500? I mean, I have ranked out in every season except one. And right now I have 10,500 steel. With a coupon, I'm halfway to the Stalingrad. Halfway! Which means that I'm going to see a Stalingrad maybe in the summer next year. And that's with me ranking out. Okay, it'll happen sooner because of the missions now. So I think it's a very good thing that we're getting steel from other sources. If it were up to me, I would significantly decrease rewards in clan battles. Why? Because why do you need rewards in a game mode? If you want to play clan battles because you enjoy the competitive aspect of it and you want to play with your friends, why isn't that the reward? And if that's not enough, why do we need to subsidize a game mode to exist like that? I wholeheartedly think things like King of the Sea are excellent. But then again, we aren't trying to lure people into that mode with rewards. People play it because they want to play competitive. And I think
I see exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you too. And the other thing too, if Wargaming's trying to prop up clans, if they're trying to make clan the penultimate experience here, they're kind of shooting themselves in their foot by offering a commodity that people can now get by not having to play clans. So it's a double-edged sword right there. But Arun, you've got something else to say?
Well, I think if they want to promote clan stuff, they should actually do all of the other things. Instead of any of the rewards, they should work on the port UI, make the experience in the port really fun. When you get out of a game, have a chat pop up where you can talk to people. You'll meet people, you'll get to chat with them, you'll make friends eventually. Sure, there will be salt in it and all those things, but you can still make friends. Right now, that doesn't really happen, right? Because the match ends, and the only interaction you can do with someone is try to use the faulty UI to search for their name and try to type to them.
You're hitting at what I was kind of getting at earlier with the influx of premium ships we're getting. These are the things that I much rather see Wargaming fix. Things like what you just mentioned. rather than pumping out these ships continually. I rather them fix the UI with clan battles. I rather them, tinker with clan battles even more. You were saying that it's an issue with time zones and everything else, and I agree. We've got 3 hours separating us from the West Coast. Why not tinker around with clan battles with only 5 players per teams? We did that in Anaheim, and it was a lot of fun. And you're more likely to get 5 players on the same team than 7 or so. So I really just think that Wargaming needs to invest more time on polishing the base game right now, and things like clan and rank and everything else. Just my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get a word from Senpai real quick, and then Arun's got a hypothetical. We're going to close with.
Going back to like the whole Clan Wars Steel kind of thing that we've had going, I understand where Arun's coming from, but sometimes just teamwork, camaraderie isn't enough for a lot of people, because in this day and age, people have this sense of entitlement, or if I do something, I'm going to be rewarded for it. And it's kind of come to that thing. It's a bit unfortunate, but unfortunately, the steel that comes in Clan Wars is kind of the carrot on the stick. So having steel added in into a more casual, kind of laid back sort of thing, it's more attractive to the masses, and therefore it will kind of feed into wargaming as a business. But that's really all I have to say on that. But I completely lost my train of thought here. But regarding the thing about the in-game chat for the port and finalizing the UI, I totally agree, because I do believe in World of Tanks there was sort of like a global/general chat on a server where you could communicate with people, sort of like a trade chat in World of Warcraft. That is something I would personally really, really like to see, and in the future, if it could be implemented, as long as the UI can be fixed.
All right, Arun, hit us with your hypothetical, and then we're going to close for today, because we have already been here for an hour and a half.
So, about the entitlement and rewards, here's my question. Half the game modes in the game are co-op type of, PvE that do not involve playing against other players. And many players, well, most of us don't play them a lot. So if we want to reward players who play these game modes and put in the effort, for like clan battles, should we add rewards for co-op as well? For example, should we add a new currency called salt? Because it'll fit. You earn 10 salt every 1,000 base XP you get in a co-op battle or a scenario, and then make Alaska only available for 50,000 salt. I mean, it's rewarding people, right? Would people be happy with that? What do you guys think?
No, I know you're joking, but remember, wargaming is a business, and they will always cater to the larger player base. So it's kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I You look at other games out there, and I mean, prime example, Black Ops 4. You've got your base game mode, PvP. You unlock weapons there and everything else. Then you've got Zombies. Zombies has a complete separate unlock system, completely separate rewards that you can only use in Zombies. So, they've segmented things where you can only earn one thing is one place and one thing's the other. Like Senpai said, they're going to go with the bigger audience, and I think the bigger audience right now is PvP.
Vanessa, what are your thoughts before we close it up?
I was trying to come up with a clever pun, but no, I mean, it just we could literally argue back and forth, and I know the community, will continue to argue back and forth, but I think we're all in agreement with at least, it's wargaming's business. They are going to look at it as, what does kind of look good towards as many players as possible. It's going to be something that we will continue to debate for a long time.
So my answer is going to be a little complicated. When we talked on our 100th episode, we had some of the devs on here to talk to, and they said that there is a upcoming focus on PvE content. And so, Arun, I get what you're trying to say is that you're trying to give rewards to the PvE type of players. I don't have a problem with that. I actually think that there will come a day that we have PvE type of content and PvE kinds of rewards. Whether that's salt or not, I don't know. Probably not. But in any case, I do think that PvE content is something that they did not expect this game to have a big call for. All the devs that I've talked to about the fact that PvE is, it was never something that they saw as part of the core game. They never saw people as that they would desire to play PvE content. Yet there's a giant group of people that play this game just for the PvE content, that they don't want to play PvP. And coming from, that I've played a lot of MMOs and over the years, I kind of get that. Now, do I think that its PvE content's ever going to get the same kind of, resources that the PvP content is going to get in World of Warships? No, that's not going to happen. The focus on PvP is too strong. But do I think that they are going to kind of come to some kind of point where they're like, hey, we want to have PvE content and we want to have PvE rewards? Yeah, I do think that that's going to happen. The question is, how will they balance it? Will this rewards in PvE be strong enough that it pulls the PvE player base to play PvE even though they don't want to? So that's my real question for the future. So
actually, the hypothetical's point was rather to show you guys and other clan battle players that how it would, basically feel if they have some ship they would like to play that would be unavailable to them because of it. And basically the big issue is that the ships as rewards with these prestigious things from clan battles, or steel actually, are high tier. And this means that these are ships that are desirable to have. I would be okay if the prestige reward ships for clan battle stuff would be low tier, well, maybe not low tier, but like tier 7, for example, like the Flint, right? I have no problem with ships like that being unavailable, but I think having ships at tier 9 and tier 10 unavailable for the majority of the players is kind of not okay. The black is kind of okay because the ship isn't exactly stellar, but Stalingrad on the other hand, and Burgundy, those don't kind of fit the same category. They are good ships, and I think not being able to get them makes people sad. And I think the same would happen if there were ships that were only available to PvE content, especially high tier ones like Alaska, because it would just make people, most players don't play, or at least many players don't play PvE, and they wouldn't be able to get the ship as a result of that. And that probably would make them sad, especially if they would be really, really interested in getting a ship like that. So I would really like it if we didn't add these kinds of exclusive rewards, unless their rewards were like, lower tier, not the very top tier, because the top tier is what people will want to play the most, I think, especially if they've played the game a long time.
It's an interesting point, Aaron, and that's kind of why I said, will those rewards be good enough to draw people from the PvP game? So, well, ZoupForYou, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show today. It was great to have you guys' opinions, and great to have you on for the first time.
It was awesome to be able to talk about these topics and just hear different point of views from different people, different kinds of players. It was awesome, and hopefully one day I can do it again.
Yep, glad to be back here again.
Absolutely.
A lot of
fun. It's just routine for you, right?
It's been a while.
It's been a little
while, I think we've both been busy and everything, so finding a time where it worked out, it's kind of nice.
Well, Arun, Vanessa, I want to thank you guys as well for putting the show together last week while I was out of town. That was awesome. It was cool. Did you guys have a good time without me?
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun and also terrifying, but fun.
I will say, Vanessa, it was really weird to turn on the podcast and hear you saying the things that I normally do at the beginning. That was very odd.
Yeah, no, it was different. Seriously, it was a lot of fun, and wish you could have made it. But I'm glad we were all able to make it here. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. I'm about to start mine because I've worked all week, so I hope everyone has a really good weekend coming up here.
Well, we appreciate you working hard for all those airline passengers, Vanessa. I know that it's a very difficult time for the airline industry this time of year. So. Well, that's it for this week, folks. As always, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Warships Podcast and Twitter at Warships Podcast for updates between episodes. Don't forget to check out Irian on YouTube and Twitch. We want to thank our amazing Patreon backers. Even if you are supporting us for only $1 an episode, it does help us put things together. If you're interested in supporting us, please consider becoming a backer yourself. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.